Now this is definitely a sign of a professional, someone that covers up all the furniture to minimize anything getting dirty or damaged during a little remodeling project. And that guy that's putting it all together is hands-on contractor Tom Walsh. Tom, now what's going on here? Your guys are all around the house putting in small windows and you get stuck with a whole wall of glass here. What's going on?
Isn't that always the way? The boss gets the biggest job. And as a matter of fact, what I thought was going to be easy became a bit of a pain in that the beam here has sagged significantly by about 3/4 of an inch. What we found was that the door was really put on with essentially about 4 screws. When the door slid closed, the jambs shook and it didn't seal very well around the gaskets.
Now, a lot of people think that you just can't have an energy efficient glass door unit. A lot of times people will take glass doors out and they'll replace them with French doors or something like that.
A sliding door is as efficient as a French door. Really, in a sense, sometimes the sliders are just as good or better because they've only got one sealing point. You don't have the hinges and the 2 doors working against one another. You've got a solid door and the other door closing up against it.
I see a few of your shims already in place here.
That's right. We make it plumb and level, and once we dealt with the sagging floor, we put this in, and now we've got a minimum now of three sets of shims and screws, and more than likely we'll put one in between that as well.
Now you were telling me about a little surprise you found, and no matter how long you're in the business, you always run across something you've never seen before. Share it with us.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I did. When I was originally measuring for the doors, I was looking at how I was going to get the trim off, and I wanted to get a look at the rough opening to see if I had any room to get this stock size door in. So trying to pull off what I thought was trim, and in fact it was not. What I found was that the way the house was built, it was kind of like a rabbited stud is what I would call it. And so what it does is it's kind of smart in that it saves a lot of materials. One side would accept the sheathing, which is texture 111, and the other side would accept the door or window flange. And so that's pretty much minimize the amount of framing needed for the house.
Boy, you had to really think about that when you had all the doors measured, and then now that you're installing them, in order to fit everything in just right, you got to consider that as well.
It's a little tricky.
Well, you're just trying to have the doors under control here and everything, but what about these guys up here?
Well, these guys, their days are numbered. They've finished wasting energy. So now it's time for a new transom with insulated glass, much like the rest of the windows. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to remove the glass, remove the stops, and install the new windows within those existing openings. Because again, we can't remove this trim. This is the frame of the house.
The transom windows are actually just pieces of glass set into the opening with wooden stops nailed inside and outside to secure them.
So they just literally glued to the rabbited 2x4, they just glued a piece of glass?
Silicone, a piece of single pane glass,
So it's not really a window at all, really?
It's a homemade window that is completely inefficient.
But the good news is that they can easily be removed. The bad news is that they also can easily be broken. And breaking a piece of glass that large, working overhead, can really be bad news. To fit within those rabbited studs that Tom was telling us about, the nailing flange on the new window has to be trimmed down a little bit. The opening is coated with sealant before the window is installed and secured with long screws. These fasteners are covered with those trim strips Matt talked about. On the inside, they're adding jamb extensions since the old trim was what held the glass in place. These wood frames will come out flush with the inside of the wall, so Tom's crew can install a new clear wood trim to finish off the interior.
2, 3, 4 pieces of horizontal, 1 continuous piece there, 1 continuous piece there. Got it. Okay, it's gonna look great.
Later, Jeannie and John will stain this to match the exposed beam overhead. But for now, it's just fun to watch these guys wrap up this job with some first-class craftsmanship.